Greetings, friends. This is Missionary Tim Turner, coming to bring you a basic Swahili lesson. So there's nothing flashy about these videos. This is very simple, and just a way to teach basic Swahili. And this is lesson one. And so as we begin, I will be using a couple of resources that I encourage you to purchase. These are very easy resources to find in the United States and in other Western areas. They are both produced by Routledge Press, which is considered a high quality academic press, but you will find these resources great for Swahili. So the first is this one, Colloquial Swahili, the complete course for beginners. This is going to be the backbone of where I teach, and you will absolutely want to copy. And then also this dictionary from Routledge Press, which is English to Swahili, Swahili to English immersive dictionary. I know it's backwards for you, but this is another resource that will be helpful as you go along. So even if you want to go purchase those resources and then come back to these videos, that would be very helpful. So lesson one is really basic. I find that if you want to learn a language, you're really wanting to learn a people. So I am assuming that you're watching this video because you have some relationship with something across East Africa. That's an important part of Swahili. Swahili is very dominant in East Africa. There's estimated anywhere from 50 to 95 million people who speak Swahili across East Africa. I think in the present day, it's probably closer to 95 million. Swahili is the most pure in Tanzania. In fact, there's a joke that goes Swahili was born in Tanzania, got sick in Kenya, died in the Congo, and then was buried in Uganda. And there's some background to this that's important for understanding both the beginnings of Swahili and the Swahili people, the Tanzania people, the East African people, of why was Swahili born in Tanzania. Now, as I record this, I'm sitting in Tanzania. My family, we live in Tanzania. So in the ninth and 10th century AD, Swahili as a language began to spread. Now, Swahili originates in a tribal dialect language, and that tribal dialect version of Swahili still exists today, although what we refer to as Swahili is no longer that tribal form. In the ninth, 10th century AD, in the north area of Kenya, northeast area, coastal area of Kenya is where the Swahili people originated. But there began to be migration patterns that went south along the coast, all the way into present day Tanzania and even south into present day Mozambique, and all of those surrounding coastal areas. And this migration was largely due to trade that began at that time and different endeavors that began at that time. And that's important to the foundations of Swahili because that's why you see it becomes so widespread later on. Now you fast forward 1,000 years. Imagine that whole coastal area for about 1,000 years has been speaking this tribal dialect of Swahili. But in the 19th century, so the 1800s, when economic development came into East Africa, mostly from Arabic nations, Swahili began to spread inland because the colonizers and those who were doing business along the coast, they wanted to push their businesses in, and the Swahili language was a very good way to do this. It's a Bantu language, which the Bantu language group is all over East Africa. Swahili is also very flexible. The pronunciation is easy to learn. Pronunciation is consistent. So what you see is what you get, and then the pronunciation will always be similar. So these Arabic tradespeople, they took the language of Swahili and they added Arabic words and formed this conversational version of Swahili that was easy to push inland over time. In the present day, Swahili has an estimated about 40% of the words are actually Arabic words. But Swahili also borrows from English, borrows from all kinds of languages, truly. Swahili borrows from. It's a very flexible language, very adaptive language. This is why the language was born in Tanzania. But now we say it got sick in Kenya. Well, why? Um, in the early 1900s, there was official language societies and language decisions that decided to adopt the dialect of Tanzania as the pure form over the dialect of Mombasa, which is the Kenyan dialect. Um, and so the Tanzania form, uh, Tanganyika form, began to be dominant. Now, in Kenya, the language got sick because the Kenyan government has not been as tight about Swahili being a primary form of communication as Tanzania. And so, because Swahili is very malleable, you see in Kenya, there's a lot more mixture with English. There's a lot more mixture with other tribal languages within Kenya. There's a lot more mixture with that Mombasa accent. And so the Swahili of Kenya is slightly offset from a pure form. And Kenyans will even say this. They will joke that they speak with slang. Why does it, we say, got sick in Kenya, died in the Congo? We say, why does it die in the Congo? Well, in the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, there's even more diversity of language and even less purity of consistent form. Also, in the Congo, French has been strong. So you see in the Congo, not only is Swahili mixed with forms of Arabic and English, but also it's mixed with French and a large variety of tribal languages. So you will hear even stronger slang used in the Congo um, to um, to and mix up Swahili. I I have a trouble understanding some Congolese Swahili myself. So this is just kind of a basis. Um, Swahili as a language group is dominant across East Africa. You will find speakers of Swahili absolutely in Tanzania, but also in Kenya, in the Congo, some in Uganda, some in Burundi and Rwanda, some in Zambia even, and some in Malawi, some in Mozambique. You will find Swahili spoken across the region, but especially in Tanzania. To understand the language is to begin understanding the people and how they think. So this is a very important beginning lesson of just getting these foundations. Swahili is a beautiful language. One of the things that's important to know from very start is that the pronunciation of Swahili is consistent. Um, so what you read, you can usually pronounce easily what you read. And if it's hard to pronounce, it's usually because the word is borrowed from another language. But pure Swahili is easy to pronounce. The other part of Swahili is it follows Bantu language rules, which to a native English speaker at first seem weird, and in some sentence constructs seem strange. Even some ideas do not purely translate into English. But to be fair, many English ideas do not purely translate into Swahili. So we began to learn how to think differently in order to restructure our thoughts. So this is a good little basic overview. In the next lesson, lesson 2, I want to start looking at the alphabet and talking about vowels and consonants and sounds. But you will need this book as we start together.